Amy Nernberger. I'm the Research Data Manager here at Columbia. Yes, I'm new. If you're at Columbia, come talk to me about your research data. I can't wait. But I'm very thankful for today's event. It's been extremely thought-provoking, and I'd like to thank everyone who has supported it and contributed to it. So thank you very much. A round of applause for those people. Now, to draw the day to a close, it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Chen, who's graciously stepping in for Jan Braza, who was not able to make it. And Bob will be providing closing remarks and some incisive insights into today's conversation. Bob is the director at the Center for International Earth Science Information Network of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, and is also a senior research scientist. He also manages the Socioeconomic Data and Application Center, a data center in the NASA Earth Observing and Information System. And Chen is also the former Secretary General of the Committee on Data Science and Technology of the International Council for Science and a current member of the NRC Board on International Scientific Organizations. So Bob, please.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, end of the day, I actually do have some slides I gave, which of course were done before, and you probably don't want a long talk, and we're behind schedule. So let me just fairly quickly, I think we've had quite a good discussion today. I was also impressed that a lot of people are still here. But I did want to reflect on where we're going, and although it's really too bad Jan couldn't make it, I think one thing, at least from my perspective, you may disagree, I want to bring in here is that, you know, a lot of this is a research data symposium, and we've been talking a lot about scientists, but we actually haven't been talking a lot about science. And Peter Murray Rust very quickly in his intro said, you know, values matter, the planet is under pressure, there are big problems out there. And even though I'm half a data scientist, I'm also half a working scientist. My center does all sorts of interdisciplinary research. We help monitor the progress towards the Millennium Development Goals in the Millennium Villages. We're advising governments in Africa on adaptation to climate change. I do work integrating data on different natural hazards and how they pose risks and to different populations around the world. You know, I run a data center that takes data, secondary data mostly, puts it together, creates global data sets for use in modeling and applications and so forth. So there's a purpose to the science, and I'm very supportive. You know, open data is key. It's key to doing things more efficiently, to doing those secondary activities, but it is also still the means to an end. And if the data is not open, but you need that data to solve a problem, you know, I don't get hung up in whether it's open or not. I need the data, and you do things to do that. And I think a lot of scientists are that. So we do have to keep, I think, the perspective that the goal of science is, I think, as was mentioned earlier, to benefit people and to use the science in the best way possible and make it the most efficient. But now reflecting on the talk, I use this a lot, and it's a Creative Commons licensed comic. Hopefully you guys all read XKCD regularly. But, you know, we were not designed to sift through petabytes of data. Our evolution is not, you know, equipping us very well, obviously, to type a lot, because we all get carpal tunnel syndrome and so forth. So this works on that level. It also works on the level that the planet is reaching boundaries. We are running into crises, and you know, there are physical perfect storms. There are lots of potential issues related to sustainability, and we're in the middle of it. So, you know, one of the hopeful benefits of open science, of this great technology, of all the things we heard, is that it will help science solve big problems that we're all facing and that affect all of us, whether you're, you know, here in New York City or somewhere else. Micah, you said you were talking about climate versus weather. And when people usually explain climate versus weather, they're trying to explain the difference between the first trend, which is, the change in the overall climate of the Earth on decadal or longer timescales, and weather, which is, a storm like Sandy coming and affecting a lot of people. So continuing to use a few cartoons, I'm sure you've seen this one, which is often what we see, and I think there was a hint of someone saying, oh, there are too many platforms out there, we're just going to have another standard, and even though we think we're solving the big problem. And actually, the latest XKCD, which I only added to this morning, is this one, which I thought was nice, which is, of course, there are standards like, I guess, what is this, ISO 821 or something it's called, which, of course, everybody ignores, or almost everybody. So, I mean, what we've seen is a creative process of lots of people doing lots of interesting things with all sorts of data, all different kinds of technologies, new stakeholders, new partnerships, public and private sector, governments experimenting in different things. I think one good thing is at least this administration is thinking about the problems. It's issuing new policies. It's having NIH and other agencies actually implementing and funding, going further. Some of you are involved in a new international initiative called the Research Data Alliance, which is being launched in Sweden in a couple of weeks. NSF is putting money into it. The Europeans, the Australians are all recognizing this is a problem, and it's an end-to-end problem. It's integrated into the whole science research process. It's not just a single thing you can fix. It's something that requires all sorts of activity, new technology, new workforce, new training, I'm involved with a group that's working on legal interoperability. How do you get at some of these legal constraints and issues, working across disciplines, working across national borders. So, I think we've heard a lot of today about how, data rights are critical, they can't be ignored. The business model is critical. We need to be exploring different ways. Obviously, no one has the solution yet. And there's one, last week's XKCD was a little kind of a downer, but anyway, really reflects that, one of the issues we have with data is that, we're all mortal. We're not necessarily going to survive our data, if nothing else. So that actually brings me to one final, which is actually not a, oops. So that's why we need to preserve our data. One little thing which comes from a paper Bob Downs and I did a few years ago, and it was inspired because I was at a conference with a bunch of earth scientists and space scientists 7, 8 years ago. And the space scientists in particular were making the claim that NASA, an agency invented about 50 years ago, was going to keep data on the history of the universe forever. How many people, what's the age of the universe? Do you know? 13.77 billion years. And these guys, in the same sentence, said NASA, a 50-year-old organization, is going to keep data forever, when, their other definition of forever is more than 13 billion years. So this doesn't even come close, but what it was making a point, and we see this, we're witnessing this every week or month or two, which is government is great, but it can turn off on a dime. It can be, Congress can pass a law, or a president can do something and really cut it off at the knees. And there are very few institutions, Treasury was one of the longest, that even have something close to the longevity. Of course, this is American universities. There are certainly European universities that are longer lived. But, at least some of our universities, our Harvard people, are they all gone? Anyway, have the greatest longevity. And it's that, thinking institutionally beyond our individual capacity is important. And I think, it's kind of nice having the libraries sponsor this, bringing in this kind of community and being the framework and working with partners like Elsevier to think about what the real long-term knowledge preservation and access responsibility is, and how, that obviously has to respond to the way society is changing and the way the internet and people and individuals and technology and so forth are changing. But still, where's the longevity come from? Right now, our main experience is in places of knowledge and scholarship like universities. And there may be others. I mean, I know not everybody views academia in the same way, but I think thinking about the institutional context of a lot of what we discussed here is important, and things that can succeed and be useful, in the short term may be very valuable to science, but on the other hand, there's also the need to have a mechanism by which those become part of a longer infrastructure that has an exit strategy, as somebody said, or a transition plan, or and the duty and the responsibility to think about, okay, that was great when it was great, and it's past its time, but we still need some parts of that knowledge to transfer and to migrate with us, beyond the retirement or the passing or the graduation or whatever of the individual people involved. So that's sort of one little thing I think that kind of underpins some of the discussion we had today. And obviously there's no solution, but I think, as a scientist, I think we have to step back and think about how those pieces fit together, and think about the institutional design that will make us all, live virtually forever. Thanks.
All right. So could you load up my slides? It's 30. I'm just kidding. Thanks, everyone. My name is Kelechi Okere. I'm one of the regional sales directors at Elsevier. And I just want to thank, in closing out the day, I want to thank all of you for showing up, putting these events together, these types of programs together. It's always nerve-wracking. You never know, who's going to show up, how many people are going to show up. So, Jim Neal mentioned how this program came together. This was last summer, a lunch meeting with myself and our CEO and Jim, where he talked very passionately about dealing with preserving scholarship beyond the journal, and research data and how to deal with it was one of those things. So we sort of proposed continuing the conversation in this forum, in a forum like this, and I'm very grateful to Jim for agreeing to host this, to have the conversation, and I think it's been a fantastic day. So I want to give another round of applause to all the presenters. So in closing, I thank Jim, I thank Catherine Pope, Rebecca Kennison, Layla, if I'm forgetting anyone, so the entire Columbia crew that worked with us, Elsevier, and putting this program together. I really thank everyone for making it happen. The other thing I will say is also for, so everyone heard, you saw the presentation from David Marks. The Research Data Initiative is something that Elsevier is very serious about. If you want to collaborate with us, you're an institution, you want to collaborate with us, please get in touch with us. We're very willing to work with institutions to learn more deeply how you're dealing with the research data that your researchers are producing. So please do get in touch with us if you are interested in working with us. Also, in terms of future programs like this, if you like this program and you have other ideas of other conversations that you want to have, please also talk to us. Again, this came about because of a lunch meeting that we had last summer. and here we are with a fantastic program. So please also do talk to us about that. The last thing I'll mention is that we will send evaluation forms by email. So please, please do us a favor and fill out those evaluations when you get them. This will let us know how much you enjoy the program and also how we can improve future programs. It will also help me, let's say, get good performance reviews next year. So, so again, in closing, I want to thank everyone for coming. It's been a fantastic day, fantastic program. It started out raining, but the rain has stopped. So thank you so much, and travel home safely.